I'm going to wait a minute so it can like make sure it catches us. Rokon always appreciates it when I do that. There you go. All right, everybody. It's the Jerry Metcalf podcast where top real estate agents tell how they do it. We have on the show today Todd Peter with Sotheby's International Realty in Palm Beach, Florida. Todd, good to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Jerry.
So we had your lovely wife, Frances, on the show a few episodes ago, and we talked about, I am going to have to pull the title, everybody, but we talked about really the discretion of working with these high net worth clients. And she was pretty fabulous. She set the stage for you.
You ready? She set a high bar. I don't know if I can follow that. That's going to be a tough act to follow, but I'll do my best. It's Cinco de Mayo, you know.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So Cinco de Mayo in Palm Beach, what's that like?
You know, I think we're going to go out in a boat and put on some sombreros and, you know, have a good time. I don't know. That's about it. Have some tacos.
Well, this will come out, I think, in about a week from now. So everybody, we'll have to have you back on just to find out how it went.
Yeah.
So bringing you on, let's get into, I want to talk about how you got into it, but I want everybody to know coming into this interview. So we had Frances and we had you on, like, I think it was like before, it was around episode 50. And then we've had Frances on recently in the episode 220-ish. And now we've got you back on because after talking to Frances, like, was she fabulous or what? But she's really behind the scenes. She really does the marketing things, pretty planning things. You're the guy that she's behind the scenes. You're front and center doing the deal. And the way you work together and like hone it in. But before we hit on that, how in the world, and just kind of refresh us on why and how you got into this business in the first place?
You know, I was, I got a master's in real estate from the University of Florida. I was a stock trader before in my previous career. And I kind of knew everything, the direction I wanted to go in as far as location. I wanted to be in South Florida. I grew up coming down here, fishing, playing tennis, golfing, ended up playing tennis in college. And, you know, I just knew that I wanted to be in an area with, you know, all of those things. I'd gone on a vacation to Hawaii, and I met this guy that was friends with my mom from high school. And I think he was a dentist or something in Ohio. And he quit the business, bought some boats, and had this like charter company where he would take people out snorkeling and fishing and all this stuff. And he said, this kind of resonated with me. He said, I want to live in my vacation spot. So I was like, that's kind of an interesting idea. I'd kind of like to do that too someday. So growing up, you know, vacationing in South Florida, and my parents had a place in Stewart, a little bit north of Palm Beach. I knew the area, and I knew I kind of wanted to get back here. So I went to grad school at the University of Florida, got a master's in real estate, worked in development for a little while. And, you know, it was great. I mean, it was a great experience, but then I kept looking around and seeing all these brokers in Palm Beach, you know, doing really well, being really successful. And I thought to myself, I'm like, I think I could do that job. You know, if I work really hard, I think I can outwork them and be successful given a little time. And, you know, I started my own company and try to do kind of commercial and residential deals. And I was kind of fighting it. Frances was telling me we had met and she was working at Sotheby's, and she says, you really should come over to Sotheby's. And I don't know why you're resisting this. And I fought it for a little while, and then finally came over. And that's when, you know, the trajectory for our business really took off. So.
Wow. So you get into real estate, you educated in real estate, you knew the area, live where you're going to vacation, and you met Frances. She's at Sotheby's, and you have your own brokerage because you're kind of driven. You're going to do it your way, yourself. And she says, hey, what if you came to Sotheby's?
Yeah.
And you're like, fine. And then you came to Sotheby's, and?
Yeah. And, you know, just, I mean, it's been amazing. I mean, the support that we get, you know, Sotheby's is a marketing company. It's obviously with the auction, you get a lot of support from New York, where a company owns Sotheby's. So, you know, it's really allows us to focus on selling, and, you know, the marketing part, the The brand is there for us, and we can leverage that brand. And it just gives you a leg up on any of the competition. I think we have the biggest network of agents in the world. So we're constantly getting referrals from different places, different feeder markets, from the top agents that we know. So it's really been amazing. The support that we get, our broker is amazing. It's really a good spot. And it's been great for our business. It's helped us really grow our business. And again, if I had my own shop, obviously you get more of the pie, but you're giving up, the whole marketing, all the support. And I think
to win those big deals too, right? Like you guys just closed an island. Well, we call it an island, but Gemini for what was over 100 million. Like one deal for 100 million, not bad.
Yeah, that was a good one. I mean, that was a long process though. I mean, that took a long time to sell. I think we had the listing for over 4 years. So, I think it's just a different animal. I mean, when you're dealing with a property like that, obviously, Francis, you talked with Francis about the discretion of the clients, both the sellers and the buyers. And that's been extremely important for our business, just putting that at the forefront. I mean, we are client focused. We are not about promoting ourselves ahead of the client. I mean, we are definitely promoting ourselves all the time, but we put the client's needs first.
Yeah, I love that. So you talk about, because you're really driven, you're the one who's driven and competitive, and you've got Francis keeping it all together in line, and you're out there making the deals happen. In doing that, how did this all come about? So here you are. I mean, you came to Palm Beach. You didn't grow up there.
Nope.
You chose it. How did you kind of go into that path? Like, for example, what was your first deal? What did it look like? What did you learn from it? And give us the pathway into where you are now from that.
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody thinks that they're going to come into this business and start making millions of dollars and, day one, and it's easy. You make your own schedule. It's quite the opposite. I mean, it took a while to get traction and do the first deal. I came into the business willing to do anything. I had the background of a master's in real estate. So I had a lot of kind of a higher education set on real estate in general, development, understanding, cap rates, what, different facets and financial things with real estate that is above and beyond, your normal course of business. But I also came in and said, all right, I'm going to do short sales. I'm going to do foreclosures. I'm going to learn every facet of the business. And somebody said, does anybody do commercial here in the office? And I would always raise my hand. So anything that came up, I just jumped in and said, I'm going to do that and figure it out. And even though it's hard, I'm going to see if I can learn that side of the business. So I think in doing that, you learn how to do things that other agents might not even want to do. Like short sales. I mean, different markets, you got to adjust to what's going on in the market. There's, right now it's, we're in a situation where there's record low inventory, huge demand, but it's not always like that. I mean, there's peaks and valleys to this business. Our pipeline can be robust, meaning you've got, a lot of deals that are pending and ready to close. Other times you have nothing in the pipeline. And that's the biggest fear about, being a real estate agent. You're like, it's eat what you kill. So you don't know where your next, you're like, oh my God, I've got nothing in my pipeline. I'm not going to have any income for the next 3 months. I mean, there's good times and bad times, and you've really got to be able to adjust and figure out what the market needs and figure out how to get those properties for your clients. Like right now, there's record low inventory. So I am on the phone with other brokers in my market, other top agents saying, hey, what do you have? What do you have coming? If I have a listing that is coming, I'm making phone calls to the top agents in my market. I'm saying, hey, I've got this coming. Do you want to preview it? We are sending it to our office first, and we're giving all the agents in our office first. We're leveraging that, the Sotheby's brand and the 80 agents in our office first. Because you get feedback from that. They come see the property, they might have a buyer, but they say, oh, you know what, you might want to do this differently. You might want to stage this. And we can talk about that later, how that's been effective for our business. But it's really a different market because you have record low inventory. It's all about information right now. finding those properties that are off market and, essentially bring it to your clients and providing value that, they wouldn't know about looking on Zillow or realtor.com.
Exactly. So coming into business, you've got, I'm going to keep repeating this and I'll stop, but I love kind of the dynamic of you and Francis. So when you're coming in and doing these deals and defining deals, a lot of people kind of have this preconceived notion that to be a big agent, you've got to be big and out there and show yourself on the private jet and the fancy car and the watch and the whatever. And that's not who you are. And you guys are like the best of the best. Give us a little bit of that. And if you have to be so quiet, how in the world do you generate the business and trust of people? How do they know who you are? How do they find you?
Yeah, I think it's a balance. I mean, we're obviously, we want to promote ourselves and our business and our success. I mean, success breeds success in this business. Perception is reality. I think a lot of times people see you doing big sales and it obviously helps and we want to promote that. But we're never going to put that ahead of our clients' needs. If our clients, and most of our clients are, discretion is the most important thing to the business. So that's always going to be, our top, thing to have for our clients. And it's our top priority no matter what. So I think that, doing this business, it's all about balance and trying to figure out, okay, how do I promote myself and also really care for my clients? So it's a balance and, we're not perfect at it, but we're trying every day just to work harder than every other agent out there. And, we're not going to win every deal. We're not going to win every listing, but as long as we're working, 7 days a week, which we are right now, just because the market's so hot and trying to pick things up. Yeah. And that's the other thing. All these agents say, "Oh, I'm going to have so much free time," and I don't have hours. I don't have a boss, but I work, harder than I ever did in any other job. But it's because I care about being successful. I care about our clients and whether we're representing the buyers or the sellers, we want to do well for them and have a great result. Because there's nothing better than finding somebody a great house that they're so excited about it. They're, it's a life change. It's a big thing for their family to move into this new home. And that's the most rewarding thing for us is that, you're really servicing your clients and you're doing something to better their families.
So what are you really good at? Like, what's your secret sauce that you're better at this than anybody, or what's your gift?
I don't know. I think it's just, everybody says, what's the secret sauce? What's this? I mean, it's hard work.
What is your secret sauce, Todd? What's your secret sauce?
Yeah, I think it's just, it's obviously there's no secret to it. It's hard work and just, answering the phone all the time. I mean, our phone rings at all times and sure, there's times where it's family time, whatever, but we pick up the phone. If there's a property to be shown, we go show it. We make ourselves available. We're going to go the extra mile for our clients. But I think if there's one thing that I'm pretty good at, it's prioritizing, really figuring out what's important in that moment to get that deal to go hard, to go pending, and then to get it to the closing table. I've always kind of been pretty good at seeing, what needs to happen and what's priority. I think I watch some people, they get really distracted by minutia of the deal or this or that. I'm pretty good at big picture. And Francis, and my assistant Jenna, they really help me, stay organized and stay on top of details and all that. But I'm really focused on the big picture, like what needs to happen right now? How do we get this thing to the closing table? How do we submit this offer before somebody else gets it? Really staying ahead of, kind of the curve in the process.
It's like you get in the zone.
Yeah. It's just focused. I'm just
plan and organize and make it pretty. And then you're like in the zone. While everybody else would freak out and panic, you're like, whatever, you're in your zone.
Yeah, and I think that one of the big things is that I don't get rattled very easily. It's hard for I think when you're selling your own house, and I made the mistake of trying to sell my own house, and this is several years ago. It's hard because there's a lot of emotion wrapped up in it. I mean, obviously it's a big financial transaction, no matter who you are, no matter what kind of house or property you're buying. it's big for you, and it's big emotionally. It's big for everybody else involved in your family and your spouse and whatever, significant other. So, it's emotional, it's financially important. There's a lot of things. So it's hard to do a real estate transaction on your own. I mean, that's why, I think we, as brokers really add value. I mean, obviously we're trying to sell the property, if you're representing the seller, trying to sell for the most money, get them the best, deal, and make it a seamless transaction. I mean, I think a lot of what we do is we're kind of the sponge, right? So there's sellers over here, buyers over here, and there's a lot of emotions involved, and we are just trying to absorb a lot of the anxiety, the emotion, and bring professionalism to the table where we make it a seamless, smooth transaction. It might be craziness on either side, but our job is just to keep it going down the track towards the closing, right? Keep that deal on track. If that's what both parties want, and you're representing your client, do the best for your client, get that deal sold if that's their desire, and get it done. And all this other stuff, all this other noise, all the emotions, you just got to really, kind of keep it on track and keep everybody focused. So.
And how do you think you do that? Because clearly it's something that you just do, but have you ever stepped back and gone, oh, that's how I do that? Or have you made a mistake and you're like, oh, okay, that's not how to do that, which taught you how to do that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is experience. I think a lot of it is really listening to your clients, right? I mean, everybody wants to talk, and I'm this big shot broker and this and that, but people, you've got to listen to what they're saying and what their needs are, and help them through the process. I mean, if they, you'll pick up, they're having anxiety about this, they're moving to a new spot, or this, there's all these different factors. Every deal is different, which is what I love about the business. No deal is alike. I mean, there's, I find a lot of times that the bigger priced transactions are a lot easier. Some of the other, the lower price transactions can be a lot harder sometimes, because they're fighting over every last dollar, right? Like, whereas where you're doing the big picture, it's like, okay, guys, like, let's just figure this out. The dollar and cents are, it's a much bigger scale, but putting the deal together at the end, if there's a give on the seller or the buyer's behalf, it a lot of times can be a lot easier, I find.
On the bigger deals, it's more strategic, and on the smaller deals, it can be more emotional or more, because it's all relative. There may be more at stake for a buyer on a relatively smaller deal, because they don't own several homes, so they have less leverage. So it can be a little more intense even. So it's more focused on diffusing emotions here, and on this one, it may be more focused on what the strategy is overall when that's out of the way.
Yeah, and every seller's different, every situation is different. It could be death, divorce, it could be all these different scenarios that are going on where there's a lot of emotion involved with the buying or selling of real estate. And, we've got to, kind of just be there for our clients and walk them through the process. And really, our job is, I mean, if I could sum it up, it's just to make things easier for our clients, make it a smooth transaction, take the pressure off of them. That's the biggest thing that I think that we can do. Obviously, there's, the dollars and the cents and getting the best deal for your client on either side, right? But there's a lot more to it, I think, than that. And
you just said, I want to bring up two things you said, because you keep saying it. I don't think because I love how people sometimes, when you're so good, you don't know what you're good at. I don't want everybody else to hear this. Is you've said a few times things around the lines of what you pick up. Like when you're working with clients, you'll pick up. So what you're saying is there are things you don't know, and you're going in and probably not even recognizing that you don't know. Most people just think they know. But looking for what I don't know, looking for where am I wrong, looking for what am I missing. And when you're looking for what you're missing, that's where you can prioritize and hone in on the deal and make the deal happen. The other thing you said is not forgetting. I think a lot of times agents, you probably agree, in doing transactions and dealing with people, I'm like, I think they want to make this harder so they can justify the commission check, right? But that's actually not our job. It's not about us. It's about them, and how can we make it easier for them, and then go back to the point of picking things up that we don't know. Where are we wrong? What are we missing? How do we make it easier? Asking the right questions.
Right. Yeah, that's a big part of it, asking the right questions and just listening to your clients. I think I've just found, I mean, look, we learn every day. We're not perfect at this, and we're learning from people like you, like you're top of market in Atlanta.
Too
Learning from
humble. Too humble. Just sold $100 million piece of property, and he's talking about how he's like, sure, you're not perfect because you're great, right?
no, you get better. I mean, every deal is different. You learn from every transaction, and you learn a lot about personalities. I think one of the things that my parents got divorced when I was just went to college, and so you learn about you got to deal with both sides that way, and I think that kind of prepared me, because you kind of just whenever I go back home to Cincinnati, I've got to go stay in equal time with my dad as my mom, and you've got to kind of just really deal with both sides that way, and it's not unlike dealing with a real estate transaction. You've got two parties, and you're trying to make everybody happy.
Yeah. So do you have any stories, like, just pause for a minute and go back to, like, here's a deal that you were doing, and you learned something huge, or you asked the right question? Or I'll never forget, I was at a listing appointment and they kept talking about how there could not be a sign in the yard. And rather than try to explain to them why there had to be a sign in the yard, I was just like, so it sounds like not having a sign in the yard, there's a lot of focus and importance in that. What is that? And I count to 4, and they're like, she looks at him and she looks back at me and she goes, we're getting divorced and we don't want anybody to know. And like at that moment, like I had all the trust, and they liked me because I didn't fight them. And then and then about 30 seconds later, she goes, and you're right, we need a sign. We'll put a sign in the yard. Like in that moment of just, like you said, like you're looking for what you're missing, and it comes out. So
I don't know if I'm trying to think of one instance of something that I picked up on. I think that, again, I just go back to listening to the client and trying to figure out, if there's some little something that they're not telling you, right? And but I think in this business, like, everybody's out there trying to promote themselves or do this, do that. It all comes down to relationships in the end. And you can spend all this money on marketing, you can spend all this money on this and that and promoting the property, but at the end of the day, it's all about your relationship with the client. And if you've built up relationships with all these different people and in town, and you're really out there trying to meet more people and get to know, and you build advocates for your business. I think that's one of the biggest things. People like, oh, I'm going to go spend money on advertising on Zillow, and I'm going to get more listings, or I'm going to get new buyer pickups from this. And I've tried that, but at the end of the day, it's all about relationships. And the more people you can meet with for breakfast, the more advocates you can have in this business that are promoting you to their friends, and they're saying, oh my gosh, you've got to use Todd and Francis because they did such a great job on selling our house, or they didn't talk about the deal after it was done, even though it hit the papers, and that's how people found out about it. Like, they're trustworthy and they're good at what they do, and they sold my house in the short amount of time for more money than I ever thought. Like, that's what you want. I mean, you want those advocates to be talking about you and to really be promoting your business, even when you're not there. I mean, when they're at dinner with somebody, you want them to be your advocate. So that's what I found. If there's any like aha moment, it's that that's the best kind of marketing that you can have, is having advocates out there in the market really promoting you and your business, even when you're not there.
Yeah, make sure that they trust you and do things so that follows through, and knowing your market.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, know your market, know the inventory, know your what's out there that's off market, and really just kind of trying to match buyers with sellers. I mean, that's all we're doing right now, is just really, okay, we've got a buyer for this. Who, this property just came up, we just found out about it. Who can we send that to? It's all about information. It's all about providing value for your clients, and that's what we're trying to do right now.
Exactly. And so in doing that, what's your advice? I think there are a lot of agents right now, everybody who's listening to this down the road, it is 2021. It is, at the moment, it's Cinco de Mayo, but when this releases, it'll be a couple of weeks from now. So anyway, it's mid-May. Yeah. So anyway, early May, right now, inventory pretty much in any major city, Palm Beach, Miami, Atlanta, everywhere. Yep. Inventory's low because everybody's moving and not everybody is selling. A lot of people are buying second homes. How
Yeah.
are you dealing with that and keeping up? I mean, I think a lot of people are going, okay, are you focusing on listings or are you just focusing on buyers? Do you focus on what's in front of you? Do you focus on the strategy to move forward? And what do you think is going to happen? Like, what do you think about all this and what do you do about it? And what's your advice about it? That's 3 or 5 or 6 questions in one. So you just pick
I
the one
know.
you pick the one you want to answer.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll start with the market. I mean, the market has just been absolutely on fire lately, and it's funny because inventory is so low, and we are our biggest problem right now is just trying to figure out where these sellers are going to go, and they're trying to figure out where they're going to go. So their house might have doubled or even tripled in value, but they're going, okay, well, great. Where do I go once I sell this property, and how do I replace this? And my taxes, if I trade dollars and go to the next property, my taxes are going to go up. So that's the hard part about having low inventory. And I think a lot of agents are figuring out, they're like, wow, when this flurry of buyers came in, they're like, wow, this market, great. I'm like, yeah, it's great until you run out of inventory. And then you're going to figure out what it means to be a transactional broker, because if you're not transacting, guess what? You're not making money, So
Yeah.
you have to adjust in this market. And I think that, what I was saying earlier is that you've really got to be resourceful right now and really be communicating with other brokers, really finding out what's available, what's off market, what's coming, what your buyers are looking for, listening to their needs. I mean, everybody says buyers are liars. They're going to, they'll tell you a price, but then they'll pay more. And that's true in a lot of cases. And they'll come into the market and they'll be like, well, I want to spend, only want to spend $2 million. And then you start showing them things in that range. And they figure out, okay, well, actually I can spend more. I need to up my price target. So a lot of it's just educating your buyers on what the market is. And you've really got to know what the market is these days, especially because everything's out there that's listed, right? So any listed property that hits the MLS, it's on Zillow, it's on Truly, it's on, all these different sites. So people get, they understand what the market is. They can see on Zillow what things have sold for. And they'll ask you about, oh, what do you think about this sale? And where's the market going? Sales that happen more than 4 months ago are not relevant anymore in our market because it's gone up so much. So I think really just, knowing the market, having information, bringing value to your clients, I think that's more important than it ever has been now.
Yeah. And I love how you keep circling around talking to other brokers.
Yeah.
Right? There's been so much in the history of our business of like going after cold calling, buying Zillow leads, whatever you call that, which is that whole Zillow, I'm going to grab my pen, but that whole Zillow thing, that's interesting too. On what's going on with that. And I think they're doing like referral fees and now whatever.
Yeah.
So all that being said, where are you going to take this in the market? Are you going to focus on buyers? You guys have done so many great listings and broken so many records. It should be pretty easy for you guys to pick it up. Or what would you say? And what's your advice how did you do it? And how are you going to do it again as the market changes?
It'll be interesting to see what happens this summer because, a lot of, our market is becoming less seasonal. We get a lot of New York and Northeastern buyers. We're seeing more California buyers come. The tax, because we have zero income tax here in the state of Florida. That when it kind of really all jump started when for us big time when they took away the SALT tax, where you can't deduct in other states, you can't deduct your state income tax off of your federal tax. So, the taxing has been a big thing for a number of years now. But, with everything going on with the COVID, all these New Yorkers were getting out of the busy cities, coming looking for space. And I think one of the things that people, they're not talking about as much is the effect that Zoom has had on people's businesses and work. I mean, before it was totally unacceptable to have a Zoom call and have kids and dogs and all this noise in the background and not to be dressed up and not come into the office. Now, I mean, working remotely, it doesn't matter if you're in, the Hamptons or in Greenwich or you're in Palm Beach, you're still remote. So I think that is going to affect the big cities, in my opinion, like New York, where they're where they're charging over $100 a foot in rent, and people figured out that you can do a lot of business remotely. I think it's gonna go back to a lot more in-person stuff, but I think that in what we're seeing is a lot of these companies that were in New York, like the JP Morgans, like the Goldman Sachs, they're moving, they're getting a headquarters down here. They're calling it the HQ2, right? I mean, they're getting office space in West Palm. They're getting, because the lifestyle, I mean, you're a 2.5-hour flight from New York. You've got amazing lifestyle here. You've got zero income tax on the state level. And people are like, oh, I can work just as well down here in Palm Beach, and have a great lifestyle and have sun and sunshine and access to New York and a great environment. So our schools are getting better. Everything about this area is becoming younger. We're just seeing a lot of young people, a lot of young families, and a lot of businesses move down here. So I think the trend continues for us. I think I think we're going to see demand stay very high. I mean, there could be something on a macro level that changes everything, but I think demand will remain high, and we'll see. I mean, we've got record low inventory. It might be out of sight, out of mind during the summer when everybody goes up north or goes to Aspen or the Hamptons or Nantucket, but I think it's going to be right back game on when they start focusing on Palm Beach things, and think about next season. So,
yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So, question back to the business side, winning business with people. Because you've got a name where you are, but how do people, all these buyers coming in from New York, is that where most of your buyers come from, or where do you find your buyers? How do you win their business, or how do you earn their business?
Yeah, a lot of our buyers are coming from New York, anywhere in the Northeast, Boston. We're seeing a lot of Chicago buyers, and California. We really didn't hardly ever had California buyers, and now it seems like every fourth or fifth buyer is coming from California.
Yeah.
I keep hearing it over and over that
people left in California because they're all coming to Atlanta too.
Yeah, they're moving
there?
Yeah. And I keep hearing from a lot of these clients, they're like, we just reached our tipping point. We had enough. It was either the taxes, it was the fires out in California, the homeless, the crime levels rising. We're sitting in a pretty good spot here in Palm Beach where, we have, a beautiful environment. It's a safe area. A lot of the stuff that we do is outside. It's not crowded and congested like a big city. I mean, so it's like the perfect storm for people to be moving here from other parts of the country, and we're seeing huge demand.
So being somebody that can get in the moment and prioritize, are you better at winning business, or are you better at negotiating business? And there may not be much of a difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, Francis and I, when we first started working together, we took personality tests, and I don't know if she touched on this, but we were basically, it was determined that we're complete opposites. I guess opposites attract. And, look, it's great working with your spouse. And people say, oh, how is it working with your spouse? I say, most of the time it's great, So, there's always going to be, things that it's hard working with your spouse, but we are very good at different things. And that was what the personality test taught us, is that we have different skill sets. She launches listings. Frances is great at launching the listings, doing the video, the photography, getting all the details with the listing, the write-up. I think she's better at showing properties than I am. She's, obviously very attractive, and she presents herself very well. She remembers every detail of the house, walking through, and she's very, very good at showing. I love the negotiation part. I love, kind of being in front of clients, trying to win the business, if you will. But I love that part, the negotiation, kind of getting the deal done, the deal aspect of it, and really pushing, to get the deal move forward and close.
What do you love about it?
I just love I love that every deal is different. I love the competitive nature of it. I like, I love looking at beautiful homes. I love, doing a good job for our clients and putting them in great situations and bringing them things that other people can't, and having knowledge about, deals that other people don't have. I'd say bringing value to your clients and having them recognize that and appreciate that. That's always rewarding, and putting them in a great house. Like I said before, that's the greatest feeling there is.
So you just said something, having knowledge the other agents don't have, having knowledge for your clients they didn't get otherwise.
Yeah.
What is your formula for that? Like, I think a lot of people, especially in, look at San Francisco. That's been a market that's had this upward trajectory forever. And they're
Right.
used to that. But in other places, like even in Palm Beach, I don't know necessarily. So how do you, I know the listeners are going, okay, like I've got to reframe, I've got to reposition, this market's crazy. And even if this is past and it's the inverse of it now and somebody's listening, like how do you tap into knowing what other people don't know?
It's really just doing it every day. I mean, really just working hard, making the phone calls, and always being at the forefront of the information. It's an information game. It always has been. It's really apparent right now that there's such little inventory, and it's just getting yourself out there, putting yourself out there in front of people, meeting new people. Whether it's at a cocktail party or an event, or just doing something socially. It's really just getting in front of people, figuring out, okay, who's buying, who's thinking about selling, and really kind of just being aggressive and putting yourself out there and saying, okay, well, I have a buyer for that. If you're willing to sell your house, let's put a number on it. And they said, what's my house worth? And in this market, we're just we're saying, okay, these are the comps in the last 4 months. Let's price it even higher than that, right? That's what's sold per square foot. Let's put it at a higher bar.
I'd love to ask you, like on the topic of negotiating, I found even in Atlanta, I've sold houses for more than people said they would sell for. And when you're dealing with that, and I think some of it, you and I know agents in other markets where they literally price on the trajectory of the market, not the history of the market.
Yeah.
So just knowing other agents in those markets and now experiencing that, it gives us the foresight to deliver on it. So I've read recent transactions where you've got agents not letting, I don't know about your market, but agents are holding back for their buyers and they're missing out on the other buyers. And I've even said, look, and we have buyers from California where they're used to the trajectory of the market and dealing with it, and they don't want to do that again, right?
Yeah.
They know.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting dynamic. I see kind of the evolution of negotiating deals, buyer behavior. Buyers in Atlanta are competing, or even other markets are competing with buyers from markets like San Francisco or in other places in California, where they know that they're used to that. They're not going to miss out. So you've kind of got this interesting dynamic of how that unfolds. Or do you have any, I'm sure you've got some experiences about any fun stories you might share with us.
Well, I think, I mean, it's been a shift because we've always kind of looked things, okay, what is it worth? All right, let's look at the sales. And, typically we go back a year, sometimes a year and a half, if there's not that many sales that, are comparable. Now the market's moving so fast, you've really got to, if you're working with a buyer, just let them know, hey, the market's moving fast. Here's what, the most recent sales were. Here's what we think it's worth. And just guide them through the process. Say, look, if you like it, try to put it under contract, right? And put an offer. Because
whatever they sell for, it's going to sell for. People are finally figuring that out, I think, in Atlanta. Like so many times, the other buyers I've done more lists. I've sold two. I don't even want to, like, this is being recorded, but I'll just be vulnerable anyway. I've closed 2 buyers this year because it's all listings, like all 40 listings and 2 buyers. And in doing that, you almost just want to be like, guys, like, look, I'm just telling you, like, I'm seeing the buyers lose out over and over because they're not understanding market trajectory.
Yeah. And, you never want to push your client. I mean, I always try to just show as many properties as I can. I mean,
but they got to have the right information to make the right.
Yeah. No, I mean, if they're in town, we show them everything that we can, off market, on market, whatever we can show them, and just keep showing them things so they really get the market. And it might take them missing a couple deals, finishing in second. I mean, that just happened to us where, we had a house for our client that there was a multiple bid situation, and that's not typical. Like you're saying in California, that's very typical. Here, it hasn't been typical until recently that there's multiple bid scenarios. Well, we put in an offer for a client. The agent said there's multiple offers on the table. We put it over ask. We finished a distant third, and that was kind of a wake up call for our client that traded five. It was a $4.7 million listing, traded for $5.25, and we finished third. And it was not even a scenario that it moved so fast that it was just like, oh my gosh, like what happened? We didn't even come close. So it might take that for a couple of your buyers, but and look, this market, it's not going to go up like this forever, but the demand in the near term is there, and I think we're going to continue to see strength. But we'll see. I mean, it's just we're constantly adapting. If there's a message for young brokers getting in the game, it's work hard and be adaptable, right? Like you gotta be able to adapt to the market and adjust and do the best job for your clients.
Work hard and be adaptable. And I'm going to repeat you 4 like kind of highlights you said in here that I'm pulling out, like, because I love how talented people take their stuff for granted. Like everybody repeat, and then I'm going to ask one more question, then we're doing the final 3. Don't worry, Todd, it'll be over soon. I'm kidding.
What did I say?
So number 1, you talked about like in working with clients, there are things you pick up on. You literally like even subconsciously are always listening for what you don't know. It's not what they say, it's what they don't say or what you're missing. Number 2 is don't ever forget our job's actually to make things easier.
Yeah.
And number 3 is like what makes you valuable is knowing what you don't know, knowing what others don't know, helping them know what they don't know. Because a lot of times you know what you don't, you might know, be aware of what you don't know, but you don't even know, or you might know what you're missing, but now I've lost the quote, but like you don't know what you don't know sometimes, and helping people out with that. Yeah. Knowing things people don't know, knowing properties, knowing marketing, knowing stories. And then the last thing is, I love what you said. You just kind of said it once and blipped through it, but you said we keep showing them things. Yep. And to that, it's like I'll put deals under contract and I keep showing them things when the market, that's not as easy to do now, to make sure they feel good or to make sure they realize what this market's doing. Like keep showing them things and push them through and help them learn.
Yep.
So
that's something that, I learned from our mentor, Chris Condon, who, has been doing this for a long time. She's been a top agent. She hired Francis right out of college. She's been great. I mean, she's just taught us so much about how to do the business and how to carry yourself and how to act in your client's best interests and always have the long view, no matter what happens. There can be, there's agents out there that will, do things or take clients or, treat you like you don't want to be treated or, do things that are not above board. And she always said, look, you've got to take the long view, no matter what happens, you've got to work with these other agents in the future. And you have to, you have to behave in a way that you would want other people to behave to you. It's the golden rule, but it's in this world, we are going to be doing this. Hopefully you want to have a long career selling real estate. You've got to work with other agents in the market, and you want to have a great reputation. So not only do other agents want to work with you and tell you about their off-market listings, but you want them to say, you know what, like I enjoy working with Todd and Francis, and I respect them, and your reputation is everything in this business, right? So clients will hear that as well, and they want to work with people that have integrity and that do a good job and are aggressive, but aggressive in an ethical way, right? So I think that's a big part of it.
So one more question. What a great, that was great. That was it. That was the podcast. Bye, y'all. Just kidding, because I've got another good question. Because you're dealing in your market moderate price points of which is still huge, 5 million, multi-million, and you're dealing in 50 million and $100 million deals. When you start getting into those bigger price points, there's no comps. Like, how do you do that? How do you frame it? How do you sell it? Like, how do you position it where like, yeah, here's the value really?
Mhm.
How do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's, sometimes there aren't really great comps for these extraordinary properties, these unique properties. One of the things that we had to do for Gemini just to get to a value. I mean, so for people that don't know, that's the $100 million property that we just saw was actually listed at 115 as the last asking price. And so that one, it was so big, 15.6 acres, 1,200 feet on the ocean, 1,300 feet on the intercoastal. There is no comp for that. There is literally no comp for that. Nothing is that big. Nothing has that much frontage. So really what we had to do is kind of just break it into parts and to do a comparative market analysis, a CMA for those of you in the business, and look at, similar properties on the ocean, look at similar properties on the intercoastal, and really just try to figure out, look at it, 5 different ways and come up with the value in doing so. By summing the parts. So you just have to be creative, and you really have to look at, all right, how do I think outside the box, because there is no comp for this property. How do I really kind of break into smaller pieces and then put it back together and come up with the value? And it's hard because some of these properties, they're worth more than you would think compared to other properties, because they are so special, they are so unique. So it really just takes knowing the market, knowing the buyers that are out there, knowing your audience. Like anything, you got to know who is capable of buying a property like that, where they might be coming from, what their criteria might be, and to really kind of try to launch that listing, present that property in a way that it's going to appeal to more buyers, more qualified buyers in your market. And to really,
how many qualified buyers are there for $100 million property?
well, it's the air does get thinner, and that's what I think we really focus on. And what's really great about working at Sotheby's is that we have an amazing network. We are a great marketing company. We have the auction. We get buyers and sellers that are looking at fine art and jewelry and watches and cars. And we're able to tap into that database and to get our big properties in front of them, and to get it in front of the top agents in all of these different markets, in Atlanta, in Chicago, in New York, in the Hamptons, in California. So we get those big properties out to those great agents, and those great agents, guess what? They know who the buyers are. A lot of their buyers are the same buyers that we're dealing with. We get a lot of referrals from New York. We're dealing with the same clients, and they want to put their clients in great, capable hands, and to be with great agents. And they want to know that they're taken care of, and that we are going to work extremely hard for them, just as they work hard for them in their own market. So that's been a great thing about working at Sotheby's, is that you have great relationships with the top brokers in all these key markets. And we also talk about best practices, and we also talk about, what's going on in their markets. So we're ahead of the game. We understand what these buyers are looking for. Why are they moving out of New York? Why are they buying a home in Palm Beach? What are their keys that are driving this change to buy? So we're constantly learning. We're learning from our peers. We're learning from our other agents, and trying to adapt.
So you never stop learning, but know your market, know your buyer, and know the audience. The audience is huge, because you got to position it for what's valuable to them.
Absolutely.
And remembering, you've said several times, Sotheby's, again, this is not a Sotheby's commercial, but it's true. Sotheby's is a great marketing platform, or a marketing company, where you can actually go sell, because you've got the marketing PR behind what we do is unbelievable. And then on top of that, you've got the network of people within the Sotheby's brand, from the brokers to what we pull from the auction house. I mean, it's kind of all wrapped up.
Yep. So, it's great. It's made going on listing presentations, going from these big properties, we just know, walking into that room, that we've got a leg up on our competition, because all of those other things we just talked about, we have all that. We have the best photography, we have the best video, we're staging more and more properties than we've ever before. I mean, that was a big thing always in California.
Yeah.
It's catching on in Florida. We found great success in staging our properties, and a lot of times, it might be an extra cost for the sellers up front that they're like a little resident about spending that money, but it really is in every case that we've done it. It has increased their sales price. It's gotten the property, in my opinion, sold faster and for more money. And at the end of the day,
even in a hot market, it makes a big difference. Even in a hot market, it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it's the old saying, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. When people are looking on their phones and on their iPads and they're in bed looking at real estate in Palm Beach or whatever the market they're looking at, they're just rifling through photos, right? They're swiping through and they're looking at photos and, oh my gosh, this popped up. Look how amazing this looks, and I want to go see that property. Is there a great video of that listing? And that's the thing that really, Frances is she's the greatest at. I mean, she'll be there with the photographer, be there with the staging company, be there with the videographer, and really kind of curate the listing. So when that property launches and it's listed, and it goes out to all these different websites, you're like, man, I want to live there. I want to own that piece of property. I want to go see that. And that's the goal. I mean, you cast this wide net. We're doing print, we're doing, online advertising. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're all these different areas, because you don't know where that buyer is going to come from. And so, when that buyer sees that listing and they see that presentation, they see how professional everything looks, the end result of all those things is, that we hopefully get the property sold quicker and for more money.
Well, the first showing's not in person anymore, especially these days, and especially with where buyers are coming from. It's online, yeah. So we've got to do it right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do the quote final three, okay. And don't worry, they're easy. But number one, I remember you've been on the show so long ago that I don't even know if we did this yet. Now it's every show.
Now it's like on the hot seat.
What's that? Yeah, but you're great. You're better. You're good under pressure.
Yeah.
You just hone in and prioritize.
All right.
I love it. The people who hate like the final three questions the most are the people who always do the best. Or come up with like the greatest answers. But number one, what has been your biggest resource in your success?
I would say Frances. Working with Frances and helping me, helping balance me, helping me stay focused on different things, and she's always there to kind of pick up the slack if I need help doing something. Hiring an assistant has been a big help for us as well, because it used to just be Frances and I doing everything. So I think but just having her and having her skill set combined with mine has been really, really helpful. And so I'd have to say Frances.
Number two, having someone with your opposite skills, right? But number two, book. Is there a book or an influence in your career? Really?
I know you like this book too, but Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference, Never Split
the Difference.
Yeah,
that book was like that book was like, rather than volume, you could just read Never Split the Difference, because I could use some by the time I read that. I
love that book. Yeah, it's great. He did a master class as well. Chris Voss did, that I recommend. I mean, it's basically the book, but it's just in real life, scenarios. And he was a hostage negotiator. Really, just if you can pick up a couple things from that, and not only with real estate, but just any negotiation that you're dealing with during the course of your life, I think it's amazing.
Do you pull it on Frances?
I do, but she's read the book too, so she's pretty wise to the to some of the tools, and she's like, I know what you're doing. That doesn't work on me.
Right, exactly. But it really gets you in the right frame of mind, because he's all about exploring, not being angry, and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. If there's one thing you would have us remember, if we're going to forget everything else from our conversation today, what is it?
I would say it's about hard work. Everybody's looking for this like magic, nugget or magic thing that they can do to get more business. It's put yourself out there. Show up, be the first one at the office, be the last one to leave, take the call. If you get it on, doing whatever you're doing on the weekend and you get a call, take the call or call them right back. Be responsive, because they will, if a client calls you and you're not responsive, guess what? There's a lot of other brokers they can call. So I would just say be responsive, work hard, and really just try to do the best for your clients. I mean, if you put the client first, I think you'll always be successful and you'll always do the right thing.
Awesome. That was well stated, of course. Todd, thank you so much. Good to see you.
Having me. I appreciate it. It was hard to follow Francis. I mean, that was a tough act to follow, but hopefully.
Thanks for listening to the Jerry Metcalf podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. If you like this episode, please share it with friends. To find more episodes, search Jerry Metcalf Podcast on any platform for podcasts, or go to jerrymetcalfpodcast.com. That's JEREMETCALF podcast.com.